Well, guess what, champ? You probably don't have good technique. The amount of times that people have said something along these lines when it comes to whether it be burpees, that's a new one. It's usually deadlifts or squats or things like that, right? It's like, oh, my back pulls up really sore or tired or whatever complaint they have after doing X exercise. It's like, no, but my technique's good though. Listen, cunt, it's not. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't pull up so shit. So my advice is to get a coach who has a better set of peepers so they can see what you're doing, they can fix you up, give you feedback, and you won't get that complaint anymore. Unfortunate news for you, mate, because there's no other way to get bigger unless you fucking eat food. You can't create matter out of fucking thin air. The only way to get bigger is to eat the calories, the building blocks of then gaining size, in addition to hard training in the gym on a frequent enough basis for a long enough period of time. It's not complicated, but yeah, it's challenging. The body doesn't want to be bigger, right? The body doesn't want to be bigger. It's a greater metabolic demand to keep a larger version of yourself alive, right? So like gaining muscle is so much more difficult than dropping body fat, okay? Physiologically, so much more challenging. So much more challenging. I'll die on this hill. You can't argue otherwise. So you gotta eat some. You gotta eat. No other way to go about it. How could I scroll past this question and not answer it first? I'm a fat cunt wanting to start running. Well, look, I love the fact in which you're just owning the fact you are overweight. You need to pull your finger out of your ass. That is the first step. That is the first step, admitting that you need to make a change. Now, we want to have as little friction between you and the thing that you need to do, or the thing that you want to do in order to achieve the thing that you want to achieve, right? So if you want to drop some body fat, you want to eat better, you want to get stronger, build some muscle mass, feel more confident with your clothes off, all that sort of stuff. It's all intertwined, right? We want to make the actions that you need to take as easy as possible. So doing it by yourself, probably not as easy as it could be, versus doing it with a group, doing it with some friends. Make sure you set the bar of expectation low enough. Actually enjoy the process. Don't go out there and kill yourself and only just fall over the line if you're doing a run, because you sure as shit aren't going to be enthusiastic to come back and do it again. So slow and steady. Well, if you've seen my previous stories, you'll know that it's going pretty bloody good. Ran 21.1 Ks a day, which is the equivalent of a half marathon distance. Thank you, I know. I only ran 12 Ks for the first time, which was in of itself quite a decent PB 2 weeks ago. The goal initially in my head was 15 because that's, kind of reasonable. But as soon as I had that goal in my head, I was like, you know what? 15 isn't that far away from a 21.1, which is a half marathon distance. Fuck it. I knew that if I started at a consistent pace that I felt I could hold for the entire time, I'd get there. Just a mental game, right? Mental game. And I did it. Fucking stoked. Now, I certainly won't be going up from here. I'll be going back down and doing things in a more recommended way. Slow and steady. My lovely mother trains 4 days a week. She's on my strength school program, just the strength days, 3 days a week. And she trains with me an additional 1 day a week. So 3 and 1, that's 4. So if you are wanting to jump on the strength school, this is the best time in which to do it. Why is it the best time, Sean? Why? Because we start a brand new 16-week training cycle tomorrow, Monday. Every 4 weeks, we start a brand new training block, which updates from the previous 4 weeks and then carries on to the next 4 weeks and so on. But every 16 weeks, we start a brand new cycle. So there's four-week blocks in a 16-week cycle. 4 plus 4. Yes. Okay. So tomorrow, this coming week, is when we start a brand new 16-week cycle. It's up in the calendar. If you're already in the strength school, have a look. We're ready to go. If you haven't, it's a perfect time to start. My mother does this program. She does the 3 strength days. She doesn't do the 2 conditioning. You can do what you want within that. Less than $9 a week. Get started. When it comes to intensity of effort or effort intensity, that is a subjective gauge, right? So whereas load intensity is a statistical gauge, right? Because you've got outcomes of how much weight you lift in relation to what you could lift, right? If you're doing 3 reps at a certain weight, all right, what is that 3 rep weight compared to your 1 rep max? You work out the percentage of, right? So that's statistical. Now, when it comes to intensity of effort or effort intensity, it is subjective. So it's a personal gauge on how hard something is. Intensity of effort is in relation to how close you are to failure, how close you think you are to failure. Hence, it's subjective, right? Versus statistical or objective. It's how hard you think something is. So you might have heard of RIR, so reps in reserve, or RPE. They are 2 subjective gauges of how difficult something is. So a 10 out of 10 hard where you couldn't do any more, or a 0 RIR would be 100% intensity of effort. This speaks volumes for people's default dichotomous thinking when it comes to varied outcomes or options that they have. And if things are different, there must be one which is better or worse, one which must be perceived as superior and thus the other one inferior by any sort of metric, whether that be an exercise selection, a program, your physique, right? Well, it can be depending upon what your objectives are for achieving those particular outcomes or training in a particular way. But ultimately, for myself, you ask me the question, I gain weight in an effort to support lifting more weight. And then I've lost weight because I'd achieved that outcome. All right, happy days. I'm a heavy guy with 126 odd kilos. I was feeling it. All right, cool. I don't really want to weigh this much all the time. Lose a bit of weight, run a bit more, feel good with that. It's just different. See, this is the type of question I can fuck with. If poison goes past its use-by date, does it get more poisonous or less poisonous? I honestly don't know. Like, I wouldn't have thought poison has a use-by date, right? But most things do. Maybe I can only assume it gets less poisonous. But then, because it's already poison, right? So if I was high trying to rationalize this question, wow. I get this question semi-frequently, right? Because I lift heavy, I don't wear sleeves, I don't wear wraps. Running at the moment, I'm heavy, right? Body feels fine, right? Body feels fine. You've heard the term before, listen to your body. The issue with most people, they don't know how to interpret the language in which their body is speaking. And they do silly things. Like they throw too much at themselves, which they shouldn't be doing, too much load, too much volume, too much frequency, whatever it might be, because they're too ego-driven, right? Now, I say that ironically after doing what I did today, 21.1 Ks, jumping from 12 a couple weeks ago. But I prepared myself, prepared my body the very best way I could and came out fucking laughing at the other end. But I make sure that if my body is telling me something, there's a bit of a niggle, something's a bit uncomfortable, I listen to it. I peel back the intensity, the volume and the frequency so I don't hurt myself. I really like this question. You're asking for clarification on a term that I would use and throw out quite frequently amongst many other professionals in this space, but in the common language, a lot of people wouldn't actually understand the definition or definitions because there's 2 I'm going to throw at you and people will use it to represent something else, which will just create confusion, right? So there's 2 different types of intensity when it comes to training. We've got load intensity and we've got intensity of effort. So load intensity refers to the percentage of your maximum where 100% is a 1 rep max. Right? That's a 100% intensity. So that's maximized intensity. So you've got another sort of high intensity lift, which might be 90%, right? So when we're talking intensity in regards to load intensity is in relation to your 1 rep max, 100% of what you could do. That's an interesting way in which to frame this kind of question, right? Because you're insinuating that by weighing more, with the objective of weighing more to be advantageous to lift more weight, or weighing a little bit less, not being as strong, but having more of a cardiovascular sort of running focus in conjunction with what strength has been maintained, I would inherently like one more than the other. It's irrelevant because it's not something that I look at my body when I was heavier and go, oh, I don't like how I look compared to now, or vice versa, right? Because I train for performance. I train to achieve a particular performance outcome. At the moment, it's to, as I said, maintain as much strength that was achieved previously while introducing some running, improving my cardiovascular capacity, etc. And it's just different. It's not better or worse. I don't like it any more or any less. This question to me is just a massive ick. What's your advice to someone trying to break into quote unquote fitness influencing on socials? Ew. Like, that's certainly not what I do. I'm a coach, first and foremost. I share what I get up to because I like to essentially vlog what I'm doing. And I put out educational content. I put out some content in relation to some clients or my mom or bits and pieces that I think are going to be helpful, right? Like answer these sort of questions. But like, I do what I do. I've always been a coach for the past 10 plus years, face-to-face. I still do a bit of face-to-face. I'm online predominantly now, and have done well to grow a following based on decent content, right, that people pay attention to. Thank you very much. And building from there. But the idea to go into this to be fitness influencing, I think, is just the wrong motive. Functional patterns is an absolute fucking joke. A joke. I don't know what else to say about it. It's an absolute farce. It's a perfect example of someone using tried and tested movement patterns that the body gets into, which are very easily repeated and loadable and progressed over time, and shitting on that as a means to then sell you the solution as to what's better. Like, it's a ruse, right? Don't fall, it sucks. Sucks big dicks. I do enjoy a good would you rather question, but this one, it's not even difficult, right? Obviously hands. Rather have hands, because then essentially you're just like a gorilla or a chimpanzee, right? Because that's essentially what they have. They've got hands for feet, right? So your feet hands would get fucking sore, but they toughen up, right? I kind of almost prefer that instead of my actual feet. Not great for running, but like climbing. I like to climb.